Hello and welcome to my first impressions about the Brave New World after reading the first 3 chapters and discussing the question whether the Brave New World is a utopia or a dystopia. Let's go! In Brave New World, Aldous Huxley describes a totalitarian society that with programming and conditioning tries to create a world in which everyone is happy. Economy is flourishing because for every job workers can be produced at the push of a button, and they are not smart enough to question their fate. Instead, they are conditioned to even like their lives and appreciate their social status. Of course, the depiction of such a dystopian society raises the question whether or not Aldous Huxley's idea of creating happiness by use of conditioning is morally reasonable. Or could the Brave New World even be seen as a utopia in which everyone is totally happy with their predestined lives? Talking about a perfectly functioning society, we first have to define what a functioning society is supposed to mean. What makes a good society? Of course, we think about equality, freedom of speech, of religion, of sexual orientation and of identity. We think about a flourishing economy, raised standards of living, a good healthcare system to keep the population healthy. We think about a good judicial system to prevent criminality. Or we might think about a stable currency to assure financial stability. But all of these things are just means to reach one central aim: making everyone utterly happy. Because what greater and nobler aim could a society possibly have than making everyone utterly happy in every aspect of life? What other goals could there possibly be if that one is achieved? Then, if everyone is totally happy, it would not matter by what means this was achieved. If everyone is happy, what could we possibly complain about? The Brave New World tries to build such a perfectly functioning society by very different means. Here, programming and conditioning are used to achieve the aim of a happy society. And if you think about it, it seems to be a very easy way of making people happy. A society of free people with a free will and all kinds of different individual thoughts and wishes will always have to make compromises. You can never make them all happy if you let them have a free will. There will always be compromises to make between capitalists and communists, theists and atheists, Democrats and Republicans, the rich and the poor. There will always be people that do not agree with each other and therefore start fights, turning into wars, turning into oppression, destruction, and exactly the opposite of a functioning society. With a free population, it would be hard to build a functioning society, because it seems to be part of our human nature to use our freedom for bad purposes. There will always be selfish people with bad intentions, and at some point, ambition will always turn into megalomania and greed. At this point, the logical consequence to this cognition seems to be the Brave New World. If achieving happiness with freedom is impossible, then taking away this toxic freedom and replacing it with conditioning and programming seems to be the perfect solution. Everyone could be programmed to be perfectly talented for their particular job, and then the right conditioning makes them also love to do it. So every job is done, and there's no scarcity of workers. If there are economic problems, the people are simply conditioned to do whatever it takes to fix it. For example, buy a lot of new clothes or use public transport. Economically, every problem can be solved with conditioning and programming, and the people would still like what they are doing and how their lives are. Furthermore, the Brave New World has no religion issues because there is no religion. They have no issues with opposing ideologies because the population is incapable of having different ideas. They have no equality conflicts or racism because there is no diversity and there are no races except from the social case that they are simply conditioned to accept and like. Long story short, programming and conditioning makes it possible to make people utterly happy and therefore achieve the central aim of a functioning society. And if in the Brave New World the technology behind the programming and conditioning was flawless, it could be a perfectly functioning society where all of the people were utterly happy. A utopia. But what makes the world imperfect is that the technology by which the total happiness is achieved is not flawless. We can see that not everyone is very positive about the society they live in, and this comes with major problems. In a world like this, in which free will is suppressed and the people are totally controlled, a person like Bernard Marx could cause serious conflicts. A person like him who is not happy would be able to question the society and realize that he is suppressed and controlled. For a person who lacks happiness, this world would just be a horrible nightmare of slavery, control, and the suppression of free will, free thoughts, and self-determination. An absolute dystopia. So, what is my conclusion to these thoughts? I am very sure with freedom come a lot of problems. And probably humanity will never be able to have a perfectly functioning society with a population that is both utterly free and utterly happy. But in a world without freedom, it may one day indeed be possible to create total happiness artificially. So, if happiness was our highest aim, that would be the way to go, although at a certain point we would rather be robots instead of human beings. But in that case, we would not only give up our freedom for happiness, but also our identity, our personality, our relationship, our love, our free thoughts, and our dreams and desires. Such a totalitarian society walks on the borderline between morally absolutely wrong and, well, we are all happy, what could we possibly complain about? In the end, we should all ask ourselves what we value higher, free will and self-determination or happiness, because in our society we cannot always have both. But what we can do as people with a free mind is trying to come as close to happiness as possible. It might be a long journey to overcome the conflicts of our society, and we might never have a utopian state, but at least we keep what makes us human. Our personalities, our identity, our free will and our free minds. But also our conflicts and disagreements, our ambition and selfishness, and all the very human things that keep us from total happiness.